Welcome to today's tutorial. Today we're going to show you how to make ruins for your wargaming or dungeon tile setup. Of course, we begin by sanding our XPS foam, and then we're going to cut out the pieces in the shapes that we want using our hot wire foam cutter. It's important to sand the foam because it gives it a nice texture, it helps the paint to adhere to it better, and later on we're going to be putting our brand new terrain primer sprays to good use. Now you can see he's fixed two ruinous walls, and right now we're just mapping out the size and shape that we want this to be. This will be a nice ruined corner, and he's just going to trace with a little pencil and map out the area that he wants the footprint of this ruin to be. Using the scenery knife, he's just going to cut a nice straight line so we have that nice hard edge, that nice hard right corner. And using the pencil markings as a guide, we're going to cut another hard edge just on the outside here. This is just to save as much of our foam board as possible. Now with the hot wire foam cutter, we're going to go ahead and trace out those markings that he left to give us a nice organic shape. This is going to look really nice on your gaming table. Now we're going to cut out different levels for our ruined wall. Using our steel ruler and our scenery cutter, we're just going to very carefully trace a nice even level line across. Then taking our trusty old brick, we're going to add some texture by pressing this into the ruined walls. We'll repeat this again on the footprint of this piece of terrain. This is going to give a nice weathered look. He's very simply just cutting at an angle to make a more realistic chipping and worn effect. Now using PVA glue, you can use our Battlefield's basing glue or this XPS foam glue from the GAMEMASTER set. We are going to adhere the walls of the ruined wall together. So we're just applying a little bit of glue to the outsides. You want to make sure that you do sand those outside edges as well, because it'll help the glue to adhere better. Now we're just going to glue the tops, and we're going to fasten on the second level like so. And then we will glue the remaining walls together on top, very simply. Be careful here, you want to make sure that your walls line up just as evenly as you can. You see that there's a little bit of a ledge there. It's just some extra architectural detail that we're adding. And Thomas is just going to ensure that these walls are as straight as we can get them. And now you just want to let the glue dry. You have the rough formation of our ruined wall already complete. This is perfect for all kinds of games like Warhammer 40k or Star Wars Legion, or even some of your more fantasy-driven games. Now Thomas is just taking the hot wire foam cutter and he's cutting up some pieces of rubble here, some pieces of broken walls and flooring that we can then adhere to the piece of terrain. We're going to follow the same principles and techniques. We're going to use that old brick or your old rock to weather them up a bit and apply glue to the bottom just to build up different layers and levels of rubble. You want to make sure that these pieces of rubble are wide enough that you can still fit bases on top without them wobbling off too much, but also add some great three-dimensional detail. Now we're adding some more of our basing glue, our PVA glue, to the board, and we're going to just apply this in random areas. We like to apply them into the creases, as you can see Thomas there, just applying it and running it along the edges. And then we're going to take a brush and just move this out randomly, a bit sporadically, because we're going to be applying some of our scenery sand to it. By applying it to the creases, it helps to hide the joints a bit and gives it a more natural weathered look. These are the areas where the rubble and the dirt would collect. This is a bit of a messy step. Don't worry, you see Thomas has a nice large piece of paper there. He's going to be able to wipe all of the excess scenery sand away and back into his tub to use for later projects. Now we're going to head outside or to a well-ventilated area, and we're going to give our terrain primers a really good shake, and we're just going to apply a nice smooth coat of this water-based foam-safe primer all over our ruined wall. And once you've applied your primer coat, you're going to allow it to dry for a good bit of time. You want to make sure that it really adheres to that foam. When you're done, turn the can upside down and spray until pigment stops coming out. It's a great way to clean the nozzle. Now we're going to begin highlighting the model using the dry brushing technique, and we're using Greenskin from the Army Painter Warpaints range. We're just going to apply this all over the hard edges and even the flattened surfaces, and Greenskin is going to be a great contrast color to that deeper, darker wilderness and woodland terrain primer. Next, just focusing on the hardest edges, we're going to use Goblin Green, and we're just going to pick out, you can see here, just the uppermost areas and hardest edges of this piece of terrain. For this final highlight, you could use just about any color you'd like. You could use skeleton bone like we're using here, or necrotic flesh, just to pick out the stones and the most extreme edges of this ruined wall. Now we're going to apply some Quickshade Dark Tone as streaks and textural elements to the model. This is going to give it a nice aged and weathered effect. Now this is a piece of woodland terrain, so we want to make it look as if this piece of ruin has almost been taken over by the earth. The earth is taking it back. So we're going to add lots of mossy and grassy effects all over. So we've applied more of our glue in random areas, and especially the creases, like we mentioned before, to the pieces of terrain here along the edges and on top of some of these rocks. And Thomas is just going to move it around and then begin sprinkling some of our grass tufts all over the base. Now we want to apply this in a very heavy amount because we really want to make this look as if the earth has taken over this piece of woodland terrain. We hope that you enjoyed all of the tips and tricks found inside of this tutorial. More than anything, we hope that you noticed just how fun it can be to build your own terrain with the GameMaster range of products from the Army Painter. This versatile range of products is perfect for building anything from dungeon tiles to wargaming terrain. Whether it's historical gaming, science fiction, or fantasy, GameMaster has something for you. Check it out at thearmypainter.com.